Hey, what's up everybody? My name's Rohan, otherwise known as the Roshank Redemption, and the topic of today's video is actually going to be power levels in Tokyo Ghoul. Now, the main reason why I'm making this video in the first place is I feel like in general it's really difficult to gauge the power levels of characters in Tokyo Ghoul because there's so many of them, and also there are multiple sort of ranking systems for all the characters. Specifically, I'm talking about the fact that the CCG has separate rankings for investigators and for ghouls. Investigators are obviously given officer rankings like first class, associate special class, and stuff of that nature, but ghouls are instead given letter rankings like A, S, SS, SSS, etc. So when you try and compare these two lists, it can be a little bit difficult to cross-reference, and ultimately that's the reason why gauging power levels is just so damn hard in this series. However, I recently came across a list that pretty much compiles every single character from both the past and the present in Tokyo Ghoul under a single ranking, and in my opinion the list is incredibly accurate. The best part is though, the guy who made this list is actually constantly updating it and incorporating new information that we get from new chapters, so it's always going to be up to date, and he's also super open to feedback from others. And just to reiterate here, this is not at all a list made by me. Like I said, it was made by someone else, specifically a guy named Aaron C. of Oro Jackson Forums. So be sure to go and thank him after the video. He put a lot of effort into this and put some good research into it. I'll leave a link down below to the full list, so be sure to check that out. I highly recommend opening it up during the video because it'll help you to follow along as I go through this. Anyways, let's go ahead and start from the top here with the X tier, which by the way I should say is a tier created by Aaron for characters that are a step above even the SSS level. But nonetheless, first up on the list we actually have the leader of V, who's speculated to be the strongest character in all of Tokyo Ghoul. And you guys already know my opinions on this. I think the leader of V is going to be the final villain in Tokyo Ghoul, so of course I agree with the placement here. Next up in the X tier, we have both Arima and Eto, and I guess Aaron has sort of put them on the same level here. To be honest, I sort of disagree, and I feel like Arima is slightly above Eto, but nonetheless, they both definitely deserve to be in the X tier. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on to the triple S tier here, and of course, at the top of the triple S tier, we have Kuzin or Yoshimura, which makes a lot of sense, because Kuzin was confirmed to be a triple S ghoul, so he definitely deserves to be in the triple S tier, but also he was a cleaner for V, and we all know how powerful V is probably going to be, so for him to be at the top of this tier, it makes sense to me. Under Kuzin, we have Tatra, and this one definitely deserves a little bit more discussion here. So, we don't actually know what Tatra's official rating is at this point, but I believe he's going to be triple S, and I believe that this is a perfect placement for him. And the reason why is if you look at it, Tatra acts like he's way stronger than both Ayato and Pineapple, who are two of his subordinates in Aogiri Tree, and both of them are double S rated ghouls. Tatra also seemed to be sort of a step above Noro, which there weren't any direct comparisons indicating this, but I sort of got the vibe that he was a step above Noro, and Noro was of course a double S plus rated ghoul, so I'd say Tatra being a triple S is very likely. Under Tatra, we have current Kaneki, and I for sure agree with this. I might even place Kaneki higher. I might even place Kaneki at the top of the triple S tier. He took on Eto with only one hand, and he won. And granted, Eto was joking around in that fight to some extent, but nonetheless, Kaneki is powerful as hell, and I would argue that by the end of the series, he's going to be the most powerful character in all of Tokyo Ghoul. Okay, so this next one is going to get really controversial because you guys all know how powerful I think Uta is. So after this, we have Renji Yomo and Uta on the same level. Now, I actually think that Uta might potentially be at the top of the triple S tier, at least at that level, or maybe even in the X tier, which I know is not popular opinion, but let's go ahead and look at it for a second. The Clowns are an incredibly powerful ghoul organization, and Uta seems to have the most authority in the Clowns. That's the first thing. The second thing, we have never seen Uta's Kagane. We have never, not even once, seen Uta's Kagane, which probably means he's going to be a pretty powerful ghoul, because if he hasn't released his Kagane yet, that means he pretty much hasn't taken any of the fights so far in the series seriously. So I personally think that Uta could be even higher in the triple S tier, but nonetheless, he definitely deserves to be triple S, and it was indicated many times in the series that Yomo is on the level of Uta, so for him to be triple S as well definitely makes sense. Under Yomo and Uta, we have Shachi, and I also very much agree with this one. Considering how strong Shachi was in part 1, when he was a double S ghoul, he's had 3 years since then to hone his skills, and just his fighting style in general, I feel like he's probably going to be on triple S level when we finally see him in Rei. Next up, we have Tsuneyoshi Washu, and this one also makes a lot of sense, because it was said in the past that Tsuneyoshi was able to subdue triple S ghouls even with ease, so he's definitely at least triple S rated. I might even put him a little bit higher, but nonetheless, he definitely deserves to be triple S. And then finally, we have Eto from the past during the CCG raids, rounding out the triple S tier. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the double S plus tier, and don't worry, I'm going to start skipping some names now. I just want to address all the names in the X and triple S tier because those are all very important characters. But first off, we have Arata Kirishiyama, which makes sense. He did have a Kakuja, and he had a pretty powerful Kakuja at that. After that, we have Amon, and I think Amon could even be triple S level at this point, but from what we've seen, from what's been indicated, Amon is definitely at least double S plus. The next person I want to talk about in the double S plus tier is Sota, and guys, this one deserves quite a bit of discussion here. So Sota's a bit of an enigmatic ghoul just because we don't really know all that much about him. We do know a little bit about his fighting capabilities judging from his fight with Matsume, and I'd say just by looking at that, he's about double S or double S plus. I mean, Matsume was able to dispose of Kijima and Hairu Ihe, and in turn Sota defeated her with ease, so I'd say double S plus is about right. But besides that, Sota's also been shown to be very manipulative, judging by the fact that it was him who dropped the steel beams on Kaneki, and also he's currently infiltrating the CCG, and assuming that he is in fact Furuta, which I would be shocked if he wasn't. But nonetheless, Sota's very manipulative, and he seems to be intelligent, so double S plus is definitely the way to go here. Also, I want to briefly mention that I agree with Noro's rating here, because his official rating is double S, but judging from his fight with Shirazu and the rest of the Q squad, he's probably slightly above that. Okay, so this next one is going to be very controversial, but I agree with it wholeheartedly, and that is Mirumo Sukiyama under the double S plus tier. I mean, let's go ahead and look at Mirumo's capabilities here. He was able to escape CCG imprisonment, I think it was in the last chapter actually, pretty easily it seemed. And also, judging from flashbacks when he was fighting Matsume, he seems like a very strong ghoul, and there's even speculation that he might actually have a Kakuja, so I wouldn't necessarily go so far as to say that he has a Kakuja, but I do think that he's very strong and that he deserves to be in the double S plus tier. Finally, rounding out the tier, we have Matsuri and Yoshitoki Washu, which makes sense. They're both members of the Washu family, and while they haven't shown incredible feats to prove that they are double S plus, I'd say just from name, they'd probably be around there. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to the double S tier here. And to start off, I want to mention that Ayato Kirishima and Seno Takizawa are confirmed beyond a doubt double S, and this pretty much also means that Sasaki is also around double S because he's around on the same level of Takizawa judging by their fight. After Takizawa, we have Juzo, and I definitely agree with a double S rating for Juzo because he is a special class investigator, but I would actually move him a little bit higher. I would actually move him to maybe third on this list, maybe even second. Right under Juzo, we actually have Hinami, and I do agree with a double S rating for her just because she was able to hold off Takizawa for a small period of time, but I would say she's closer to the bottom rather than around the middle. Hoji is also worth mentioning. I would definitely say I agree with the double S rating just because he's supposed to have an incredibly powerful Kenkei, and I also think he was involved in defeating Kuzin at the end of part 1. And finally, rounding out the double S tier, we actually have Hikari Kirishima, who's of course Toka's mother. And I want to dwell on this one a little bit because this one's a little bit interesting to consider. So for those of you who aren't aware, there's actually a theory floating around that Yomo's sister is none other than Hikari Kirishima, just because they're both Ukaku ghouls, and there have been a couple indications that this is the case. So I personally believe in this theory, and if this is the case, Aruma's Kenkei, Narukami, was made from Hikari Kirishima, and Narukami's incredibly powerful, which means that Hikari Kirishima was also probably incredibly powerful. Next up, we've got the S plus tier, and the first person I want to point out in the S plus tier is Matsume. And it makes sense that Matsume would sort of be in the middle of the pack, because she did defeat Hairu Ihe, and she did defeat Kijima, which are two pretty big victories. But nonetheless, I wouldn't say she's powerful enough to be double S just because she was sort of fodderized by Sota. Right under Matsume, we have Hairu Ihe, which makes sense. Hairu did lose to Matsume, but she is very strong, being a former member of Arma Squad and all that. Right under Hairu Ihe, we have Kane, and I'm actually not sure if I agree with this one. I think Kane should be a little bit higher, just because Kane's regenerative powers were absolutely ridiculous, and the only reason why Kane was killed was because Kaneki is such a beast, so I think that Kane could potentially be at the top of the S plus list, or maybe even double S. Finally, it's worth mentioning that Jason is in here, which makes a lot of sense because he was S-rated, but he also possessed a half Kakuja. Okay, moving on to the S-rated tier here, the first person I want to mention is Roma. So, a lot of people think that Roma is confirmed to be a double S ghoul, and while it's very much indicated that she is one of the double S escapees from Cochlea, it's not 100% confirmed yet, and also her fighting ability hasn't been all that impressive so far. She was held off by Kuramoto during the auction arc, so I feel like S is probably right for now until she's confirmed to be double S. Next up, near the bottom of the S tier, we have Shirazu, and to be honest, I very much disagree with this. I think Shirazu could even be at the top of the S plus tier, considering that he was basically able to defeat Noro. Granted, he had quite a bit of help, but he's able to hold his own against Noro, and Noro is a powerful ghoul, so I personally think that Shirazu should be a lot higher. Finally, also near the bottom of the tier, we have Shu Tsukiyama, which makes sense. Shu is probably a lot more powerful now after he's cannibalized a lot, but I still want to put him up with the upper echelon of characters, because he was sort of outclassed by Kaneki at the end of the previous arc. Alright, so I'm actually going to go ahead and skip the A+, A, and B ready tiers and leave that for you guys to read on your own. I'm going to go straight to the unknown tier because there are two people I want to talk about from this tier, Hide and Toka. Now, with regards to Hide, there's actually a pretty popular theory floating around that Hide is a member of the Washu family, and to be honest, I sort of agree with this theory to some extent. But nonetheless, if that's the case, then Hide could be incredibly powerful. But if that's not the case, then Hide is probably not even B class. He could be even C class. So we can't really even begin to speculate where Hide's power level is. I would argue that if he is a member of the Washu family, then he could be pretty high up there. But if he's not, then he's probably just a normal human. Toka, on the other hand, we can speculate about a little bit. Pre-time skip, I'd say she's around A level, so I think potentially after the time skip, she's around S or even double S level. And the reason I say this is that the potential is definitely there. If Hikaru Kirishima is indeed the one from whom Aruma's Kinkei is modeled, then that means Hikaru was incredibly powerful, so Toka certainly has a lot of potential. In light of all that, I could see her even being double S, although I'd say probably S is more likely. Well, alright folks, those are pretty much all the important characters that I wanted to touch on in this video. I feel like I hit most of the important points here. As much as I would like to talk about all the characters, there are just way too many, so I'll leave the rest of the characters for you guys to read on your own. As always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop me a like down below, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more Tokyo Ghoul content in the future. The comment question of the day is, what do you guys think of this list of power levels? Like I said, I think it's very well made, very well researched, but let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. Otherwise, I hope you all have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.